Hello, welcome to another edition of the I'm Always Right Sports Podcast. I am your host, as always, the mouth of Michigan, Robin Dyke. With me, as always, my co-host, the Merc Mike Merkel.
I'm here.
He's here, we're ready to go. Lots of great stuff to talk about. We talked last week, we kind of said that we were going to be previewing your fantasy football team, Mike, so that's what we're going to do. We actually did the first ever I'm Always Right Sports Podcast fantasy draft earlier this week. However, due to some technical difficulties, we do not have that footage, unfortunately. So, unfortunately, we won't be posting that. But what we will be talking about, Mike's team. We'll be talking about kind of what happened in the draft and how he was pretty devastated as we went through the first couple of rounds. It was funny nonetheless to see. And then we're also gonna do a Pistons off-season preview / outlook, kind of what we want to see. We know what they're picking 7th in the draft, so we're going to talk about that. After the break, we're going to talk some Tigers talk. Casey Mize, Three Skubal are up, Paredes. These guys have all been called up after they weren't originally on the original roster. It's nice to see them up. We're going to talk about the season outlook for the Tigers, and we're going to end the show with a kind of a wrestling update, roundup kind of thing. We're going to review NXT TakeOver 30. Lots of big news came out of that. We're going to be talking AEW Saturday Night Special. We're going to be talking some title changes and just some overall wrestling updates for you guys as well. So lots of stuff to talk about here today. Let's jump right in though, Mike, with your fantasy football team. Yeah. We talked a couple weeks ago when we were prepping for the actual draft where it was a you kind of had like a philosophy of what you were going to go with, and some guys that may have been a little bit under the radar for you, or for maybe for other people, but not for you. Turns out everybody had the same kind of mindset you did in some regard. How do you think your draft fell, and what was your philosophy going in for those who maybe haven't done their draft yet? Which, if you haven't, TikTok. That maybe you're looking for like just some sort of roadmap into how to build a team.
Yeah, well, I probably built the team completely different than everyone else on the face of planet Earth. But I will say I'm one of the more completionists of the roster. Yeah. So I try to get all of the pieces on your starting roster before I move to the bench. Mm-hmm. There are some people that fill out early parts of their bench before they finish out some of their roster.
Right.
So I guess it kind of depends how much you value, say, a kicker and or maybe your defense or something.
Right.
Because there are some people in our draft that picked a kicker in the last round and just had one kicker and that was it.
Right.
I went kicker in like the 7th or 8th round because I was like, I want the best kicker here.
Yep.
And I also value kickers way more than other people do because I think if you have a great kicker, for a team that scores a lot of points, that's like 10, 12, 14 points. Yep. Where if you get like, I'll just get an average kicker, if he only gives you 5 points, that's a 9-point swing in my favor. Right. So that's kind of the things I look at when I pick my team.
Right.
Is I try to complete.
Yeah, you're definitely have that mindset. I don't think you're necessarily off. I think some people are like that, right? Other people, I know a lot of fantasy experts are like, well, don't take a defense till later and everything else like that. But you definitely you're like, no, I'm going to get the best defense I think on the board. In a spot. I mean, you're not taking a defense second round, obviously, but like, you went earlier than most did with your defense and your kicker, just because you're like, okay, I want this defense.
I want the tip top that I think is the tip top
exactly.
of those kind of positions. Because there are some people that are like, oh, I want my backup wide receiver to be Marvin Jones, and he might not be there in 4 rounds from now or whatever, and that's fine, but I can look at, I can take, and we'll talk about, I got someone like J.K. Dobbins on my bench, and I go, I can live with that as a backup running back, and stuff.
Exactly, and it's all about how you prioritize, the board, right? Just like in a regular draft, in a lot of aspects, right? It's, what's the need? I think your philosophy really transcends to like the tight end position. For years, excuse me, the tight end position was one of like, where do you take a tight end, right? It was like, you had Gronk was really at one point like the only tight end, and maybe Jimmy Graham for that little bit of time was like the only 2 tight ends where you're like, I'm definitely going to take him in the 1st or 2nd round. Outside of that, nobody else was really, worth it. Yeah. Now, the tight end position's weird because you have a few guys that are like at the tippy top, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, a couple other guys, you're like, okay, these are the guys, and then after that, you're like, now where do you take a tight end? Where do you take a Mark Andrews? Where do you take a Greg Olsen? Where do you take a guy like Hawkinson, right? Like where you're kind of looking at what's the value here. So let's just run down. So you had the 4th overall pick, 12-team league, 4th overall pick, snake draft, obviously. So let's just kind of run down.
Yeah. So I decided. So the first 3 picks of the draft end up being McCaffrey, Saquon, and Zeke.
Yes.
Were the first three.
Yep.
So then I kind of look at those three as, and I did this for a lot of positions, I think there's like 3 or 4 people in top tier fantasy positions.
Right.
When you look at quarterbacks, you go Lamar, Patrick, and maybe like Russell or something.
Right. Probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Running backs, those 3 that I named, I think are the 3 that will get you by far the most amount of points than anyone else will, on a week-to-week basis. Mm-hmm. So once those 3 got taken, I said, well, let me then maybe shift to maybe the top of the board at a different position.
Right.
So I went top of the board in the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
I went Michael Thomas from New Orleans.
Yep.
I think he is the safest pick. He is Drew Brees' easily number 1. He's probably the best receiver in the league.
Right.
And I think on average he will get you probably the most week to week.
Yeah.
And safest week to week than anyone else.
And that's the name of the game, right, for fantasy. If you're looking for consistent points every single week, right, you don't need the up and down. You need consistent production throughout 14 weeks or whatever the fantasy season goes through. All right, who's your second round pick?
So being at 4 and in a snake draft, so now you're waiting a really long time to come back around. So this is when a lot of people were picking the rest of the running backs that are kind of in the top tier, the Dalvin Cooks, those kind of guys, and then kind of like the D-Hops or anyone that's a little under the wide receiver positions. Mm-hmm. I thought one of my favorite guys in this fantasy named Austin Eckler, the running back from the Chargers, was going to be available in the late second round because I thought everyone was going to pick running backs and then go receiver right after. Right. But some people double it up on running backs I wasn't expecting for. Yeah. So someone took him earlier. So I decided to take Aaron Jones, the Green Bay running back, because I think he's versatile and I think Green Bay runs. They got Devontae and they got Aaron Jones. It's 2 weapons.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So they don't have a strong. It's not like the Lions or these teams that have strong dual running backs. Mm-hmm. It's like Aaron Jones, and then you got Dylan, who's probably going to get some carries. Yeah. But it's really the Aaron Jones show at running back. Yeah. So I think he's going to get a bulk of the carries.
Once you talk to me a little bit about how you had to pivot, right? Because we talked, you were eyeing Eckler, you were eyeing Mark Andrews, who was taken, I think, the next round after this.
I will get to that. Yeah, that was a tough one too.
Yeah, but talk to me about how you had to pivot for people out there that are maybe new to the game, or maybe just you've played fantasy for a long time and you're just not very good at it, right? For whatever reason, injuries, whatever. Like, talk to me about how you kind of pivot your strategy when you're like, okay, my target for round 2 is gone way before I thought he was going to be there, kind of like trying to go under the radar, and now you have to pivot and go, oh crap, where do I go? And talk to me about that line of thinking.
I think that you should always have a safety blanket underneath your intended target. Yeah. I think I missed the ball on that one. I didn't have a strong, number 2 I was going to go to right away. Mm-hmm. If Austin Eckler wasn't there, that's why I had on the fly pick Aaron Jones. But I think you should always have I want, like in the first round, right? Mm-hmm. You go, I'm picking number 5, so I want Michael Thomas. If he's not there, and those 3 running backs are probably going to go, okay, here's who I'm going to pick other than that guy or whatever, if he's not going to be there. Right. And I think you should have that for every round. Be like, all right, this is probably the target guy, but also if he's not there, I can pivot to another guy. Right. It just so happens in this one round, I didn't have that pivot, so I had to really try to find. Yeah, like you got to find the board. Yeah, because somebody. Was there ever any thought? Some people are like, all right, well, maybe you could have went, like a Mike Evans or something like that. Like you just doubled up on receiver and then kind of took a risk at running back on the way back, or was running back? You're like, no, I need to take running back. No, I thought I needed to take a running back because I thought right after that, I thought someone was going to maybe take him, and after that, I was like, I'm losing really all dropping down. Yeah, you're starting because even my second running back, I think is kind of a snatch that we'll get to, but I still think I'm like a little worried about some of the running backs that were coming after Aaron Jones. But I was like, I need to at least take one to solidify something for most of the weeks to come. Okay, who was your third? So the third one was actually very interesting because coming at 4th, I had to wait 6 picks and then I get to pick right again. And it was coming down to, do I need another running back or receiver who I prioritize, or do I take tight end? Because Kittle and Kelsey both went in between the time I picked in the second and third rounds. But Mark Andrews, who I'm very high on, who I think is the 3rd best tight end in football, was still there. Right. But I prioritized wide receiver, so I took Kenny Galladay. Yeah. He has big fan of that pick. Yeah. He has the most touchdown catches last year, and that gives you the most fantasy points. I think he's Stanford's easy number 1 target. Absolutely. And I don't even think it's close, to be honest with you. No. Outside of the safety blanket with the tight end, I think he's clearly the number 1. Yep. So
Most contested deep balls, and you got the Lions' offense was taking shot after shot downfield. Yeah. Highest completion percentage on passes 20 yards downfield or more. Most of those targets are going to Kenny G.
Yeah. So all of that, I took that into consideration over like Mark Andrews, who I think they're going to run a lot in Baltimore. Yeah. They're going to run a lot in Marquise Brown and stuff. So I was like, he might not get as many touches. I know Kenny Galladay's a for sure number one. Yep. So I decided to take him, trying to take the chance maybe I could get back to Mark Andrews coming to me in the fourth.
Right.
But unlikely that was going to happen.
Right, for sure. All right, so let's go your 4th and 5th round picks now here.
So my 4th round pick, I decided to actually go tight end here. Yeah. And I went Hunter Henry. I thought he was the best tight end. And tight ends for me were bleak. I was like, there's...
Yeah, it's a pretty steep
After
drop
3
off.
or 4 or 5, it's a pretty steep. So I was like, I need to at least snatch one that I think I can at least rely on for some points. Yeah. So I decided to take Hunter Henry there.
And that the big thing with him is health, right? How big of the injury factor do you put into like some guys like Julio, guys like that who are at potential could be our top two round picks. You know what I mean? But at the same time, like, are they gonna be healthy? Are they gonna be there every single week? Right?
Yeah, I had for wide receiver and running back, I don't ever want to pick that's why Dalvin Cook was not near my board at all. Yeah. But I was like, I don't want to risk
he's probably
my
missed 3 games.
Because I had that happen last year with Saquon Barkley where he missed 4 games. Yeah. And it really screws with your lineup because I'm expecting Saquon and Eckler to give you points, and when Saquon's gone, I don't have another one. Right. So I want those 2 positions. Someone like a tight end who usually doesn't even get you, unless you have the big 3, really give you more than 10 points anyway. Right. I'm like, if I can get a good kicker, good defense, maybe that can override having a okay tight end. You have to have a hole somewhere on your team for the most part. So I was like, if I'm going to have a hole, I'm going to have it at probably tight end or something.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
And then right after that, I took my flex wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, the wide receiver from Washington.
And He's the only target there.
Yeah, and I took him for literally the exact reason I took Kenny Galladay. I go, Dwayne Haskins is easy number 1 is him, and it's not even really close. Yeah. So if he
name another wide receiver in Washington,
exactly. So he's going to get all the targets there. So if he can rack up 8-9 catches, maybe a couple of games and stuff, I think I can get a lot of points from him.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, looking at this, right? It's all about prioritizing where you want to have a strength and weakness, right? You make a great point where it's not everybody leaves a fantasy draft thinking that their team is in pristine, this is it, right? But in reality, there are holes, right? You're going to have holes somewhere, right? I like your approach and how you kind of went and said, all right, if there's going to be a position, I need to minimize the impact of that position as best as possible, right? So you're like, okay, if I don't have a top 2 or 3 tight end, what's the max amount of points I'm really going to be losing here? Okay, 5-6 points maybe on a good week. So it's like, all right, let me address some other needs then. Give me a solid pick, and then let's refill the places where I think I can maximize my leverage, for later down the season.
Yeah, and I look at that as a running back where I go, I can't have a bad second running back, because running backs I look at and be you're giving me 15. If I have J.K. Dobbins who's only going to give me 6 points a week, I'm like, that's a big swing compared to a tight end, or
for sure,
give or take. So then right after Terry McLaurin, I took my second running back, Raheem Mostert, San Francisco running back. For what he did last year in the last couple games, and he's going to be pretty much the clear number 1, at least a starting back in San Fran on a power run team. Yep. I was like, he's just going to get a lot of carries, hopefully get a lot of yards, and be able to just kind of cruise through some of these defenses. So I thought he'd just be a solid number 2 to Aaron Jones, who's my number 1.
Okay, who fills out the rest of your starting lineup? Who's your flex? Yeah. Is Terry McLaurin your flex right now?
Terry McLaurin's the flex.
Your flex?
So I took Carson Wentz as the quarterback. People say that's a little iffy. He does get the injury bug. Yeah. But
who's your backup?
Drew Lock.
Oh, Drew Lock. Okay, see now that I think could be a potential steal right there.
That's what I was looking at.
We're pretty high on Denver right now, with all the weapons, and I think you were smart. A lot of people looked at, like a Melvin Gordon or Phillip Lindsay. You have a lot of weapons in Denver. Problem with that in a fantasy aspect is there's a lot of weapons, which means there's only so many touches to go around. Drew Lock's handing out all the touches.
Yeah, so he's throwing the ball to everybody.
He's benefiting from all those people.
I'm hoping that 3-4 weeks in, even if Carson does get hurt, or his receivers get hurt even, he's not able to be up there. Maybe Drew Lock gets comfortable 4 weeks in, and I can throw him into a starting
quarterback was definitely not valued in this draft at all. Not really. I think the first quarterback
outside of Lamar
and then Patrick Mahomes,
and then outside of that it was
a long, and then somebody took Dak, I think, as the third quarterback. Yeah. So it's that goes to show you the mindset that some people have on quarterbacks, where it is kind of after those first 2, it's like everyone else you can kind of be scrunched in a little bit. If Carson Wentz has healthy receivers, he stays on the field, he's a top 5 quarterback, so I ain't hating on that.
Yeah, and then my defense, I picked the Steelers defense because I think last year they went 8-8 off of their defense.
Yeah.
It was literally nothing of their. They had a third-string quarterback and they did that. So, and I think the Steelers, outside playing Baltimore, has a pretty easy. They don't play too many high-powered offenses.
Yeah.
So I think they can really level that down. Mm-hmm. And then I took Justin Tucker, the kicker from Baltimore, because like I said, I think Baltimore's going to have the most amount of points this year. Mm-hmm. And if you score 6 touchdowns in the game, 6 extra points are racking you up.
Right.
So
I
think he's going to get a lot of. At least extra points, if not kicking field goals for some of those drives.
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, when you look at this team, right, I think obviously I think Hunter Henry is the contingent of like, okay, as long as he's healthy, I think he'll be somewhat productive, right? Go through your bench real fast, and then we'll shift to Pistons.
So then I got J.K. Dobbins, running back out of Baltimore.
Yep.
I got McCoy Hardman, the wide receiver out of Kansas City, as a backup wide receiver. Mike Gesicki as my tight end. Drew Lock at quarterback. I picked the Seahawks defense literally only because I can root for them if I had to root for them.
Right.
Jake Elliott, because like I said with Carson, if he scores a lot, then Jake Elliott's going to get a lot of points there.
Yep.
And then Cole Beasley as my last pick in the draft. I think he's low-key a steal because he's a very good slot receiver for a Buffalo team.
Yeah, he's the number 2. He's the number 2 there behind Diggs, right? I think Buffalo's offense is going to have an explosion this year, so it's nice to have somebody like that, like a Golden Tate, if for Lions fans, who just catches everything within the first 5 to 15 yards.
Yeah.
So I think you got a pretty solid draft, Mike. I know a couple guys went that you were kind of targeting in some rounds, and I think some of that kind of got taken out from underneath you, you know. So it's difficult. But I'm interested to see how the season plays out. We'll probably do an update over the next couple weeks. Be like, how'd that one up turn out? Hopefully next year we'll be able to get it done.
Dang it.
Yeah, right. We'll hopefully be able to record next year's draft for you guys here. We had some ideas for that, but it just didn't pan out. So hopefully next year we'll get that. All right, let's talk some Pistons action here. You got the number 7 pick in the draft, right? I know some Pistons fans were upset. They had a 10% chance to get the first overall pick, but based off record, they were going to be picking 6th. Just based off of if we just went 1 through 30 or whatever, they're going to be picking 6, so they're not really out of that realm, really. We talked off air. This is kind of the perfect draft to not have. This is the perfect draft for them if they weren't going to be in a top 3 pick, where it's like, okay, because there isn't 1 guy or 2 guys or 3 guys. Like if this was last year. Like, okay, you had Zion, but then you have Morant, and you had the other guy from Duke, what's his name? Who plays for the Knicks right now? Oh, Barrett. RJ Barrett, right? Like, those are 3 guys who you think hopefully are going to be franchise cornerstones for your team, right? There is not that guy in this draft, right? There's hope that maybe there's a couple, but they for sure like Zion's number 1, we're not even having this conversation. There isn't that guy in there. So, from a Pistons fan perspective, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, Mike, but I think they're going point guard pretty much regardless of where they were slotted, quite frankly. I think that's where they're going to attack pretty much immediately in this draft, and I hope they do it in the draft and not in through free agency, and I hope they just stand pat. Give me your 3-step process for their off-season this year when it comes to free agency. They're going to have the 3rd most cap space in the league coming out of the league. They're already kind of starting their off-season program right now, even though we still have games going on that are legit, because the season's it's a quick turnaround, for the season. Talk to me, what do you want to see out of this Pistons team as we kind of get into the rebuild? We got a new GM, Dwayne Casey's still here. Give me your 3-step program. You draft, free agency / whatever like that, and then any player retention guys that you want to keep from this team that may be possibly hitting free agency.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it comes down to very simple. Take a point guard in the draft, maybe get another depth player for a 2nd-round pick. Hopefully they pan out. Don't spend a lot of money in free agency. I think if you want to do a little 1-year, 2-year contract to a guy who's good, I can't even name we'll go over free agency. We'll go over free agency. At different point, I have to go look into who's going to all be in free agency. Yeah. But if you get a smaller guy who's who has upside and you want to spend a little money on them, but I don't want any big splash signings this year, because I think that should be coming
the following season
after.
Absolutely.
And then the only guy I want to really re-sign is Christian Wood. Hopefully that they can get a contract done to extend him for like 4 or 5 years for Christian Wood.
Yeah, that's where the big money will come.
And then just kind of roll with this team and see what happens.
Yeah.
Kind of deal.
I'm in agreement with you. You know, the one thing I will say, though, that the Pistons have now given themselves some flexibility because, in the sense of, because they have so much cap space, right, they can do some they can do some trades, right, where they can take on now a bad contract for draft capital, right? You know what I mean? So they can take on a contract where you go, like Andrew Wiggins, right, for Golden State, has a really bad contract, right? But Golden State was like, all right, we'll bring him on, but we're going to get a first-round pick out of it, right? So the Pistons now have leveraged themselves in the ability to take on a bad contract like that. Okay, fine, he plays. We don't care about the player. The fact that they have the cap space to take on a bad contract, but in addition to that money that they have to take on, now they are able to take on a pick along with that. And if you're going to be bad, and you're in this kind of rebuilding mode, you might as well try to get as many throws at the dartboard as you can. So I like the ability that the Pistons have. I'm in agreement with you. I don't want to see any splash signings. I don't want to see anybody get signed, quite frankly. I want to stay with whatever roster you have currently and roll with it. Outside Christian Wood, I need them to sign him to a max deal, be done with it. Blake Griffin's running towards the end of this. I think he's going to be your leader. Derrick Rose is here for another year. He may be able to be flipped next offseason or next trade deadline time if he's playing as well as he is. I want a point guard in the draft, maybe even, if honestly, depending where it's at. I don't know where Cassius Winston's projected to go, but if he's there in the second, and like that's a guy, he's just a playmaker at the end of the day, and he's just a good player. So that's kind of my, for a 3-step, I want a point guard probably because you don't have one on your roster right now outside of Derrick Rose to be the first pick that you have. From a free agency standpoint, I pretty much want you to stand pat or be willing to take on a bad contract in order to get more draft capital. And then the third phase is that obviously retain Christian Wood. That's really the only big splash signing, if you want to call it that, and really focus on building this team through the draft. There's not really a timeline. The GM just got here. Dwayne Casey's a pretty damn good coach. I'm not worried about the front office necessarily as far as a timeline is go. We're not on the Lions where it's like, you need to win now. You know what I mean? This is not your window just yet. You have some time to really build this. You have good young pieces. They like Bruce Brown. They like Kennard. You've got a Sekou from the pick last year. If they re-sign Christian Wood, that's 4 guys right there that could be solid contributors, whether that's starting or off the bench, in a big way for them. So that's kind of where I want to see the Pistons go. We'll do more draft talk after the actual draft happens. Right now, it's so hard to predict where everyone's going to go. It's not like the NFL draft where you kind of have a hard set first 10 picks.
Yeah.
It's you got people from other countries over there that are talked about getting drafted that you don't even see for 3 years. So it's kind of hard to talk about that, but that's kind of our 3-step process for the Pistons right now. And hopefully, what we'll see over the next couple of years is maybe we won't see a competitive team, but we will see a team that is on the rise, ready to go, getting to a point where, I want to get by 2 years from now, I want to be where Memphis is at, right? Where you have a couple guys where you can build around, you're making a competitive stride to get into that top tier of the Western Conference kind of thing. And with the Eastern Conference being as weak as it is, hopefully Giannis leaves or comes here. That's where I think the Pistons will really have a chance to kind of go through. But all right, after the break here, we're going to be talking some Tigers talk and a lot of stuff to talk about there. And then we're also going to do a wrestling roundup at the end of the show. Lots of WWE news, lots of AEW news, of course, like always. It's the only thing that changes every single week. So we got to talk about it. All that good stuff after the break. Stick around.
Hey guys, it's the Mouth of Michigan, Rob Mendyka here. Just want to say thank you so much for all the support over these last 90 episodes, but we are here still calling all high school and college coaches from around this great country to talk about their programs here live on the show. We are more than welcome to any and all coaches from any and all sports. We would love to talk to you, to talk about your programs, your schools that you represent, and everything you stand for. We'd love to shed some more light on you and all of the great things you guys are doing around this great country. We will see you guys in part 2 of this week's episode.
And welcome back to part 2, episode 91. The road to 100 is underway. Mike, tick, tock, it's coming down. Big episode 100 coming you guys' way pretty soon here. Could not be more excited about it. Let's jump right in here. Let's talk some Tigers talk here. We finally have Our first sighting of Casey Mize in a Tigers uniform. Therese Skubal getting brought up. I think Paredes. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Either way, we got some big-time minor league prospects coming up, making their debuts over the past couple weeks for your Detroit Tigers. The Skubal's appearance was only like a couple innings. He kind of got rocked early. Casey Mize, though, had a pretty nice debut overall. I think he went 5 innings, had 7 strikeouts. They lost both games anyway because it is what it is. Talk to me, Mike, about the call-ups and how excited you were. Did you care? Are you finally happy to see some of these guys, contributing in like in a meaningful way? Talk to me what your reaction was when you found out they were getting called up.
Yeah, it was awesome to see.
Yeah.
I always wanted to see all these guys start playing, but it was kind of unfortunate to watch them kind of struggle in their first couple. I thought they'd be a little more like. Yeah. I guess it was more I was hoping that they'd be a little more like...
It would have been nice if they just went out and just dominated.
Yeah, they just dominated for a nice game or two. Like, that would have been awesome. Yeah. But they came out and struggled a little. Yeah. But, all in all, I think it's great. I've been wanting them to come up since the start of the season, but they waited a couple weeks for it. Right. But the Tigers right now aren't going to be winning anything now anyway, so might as well just throw them up and hopefully get them some experience.
Yeah, it's weird because, when the season first kicked off, it's like, oh, they're playing pretty well. They're playing some pretty good baseball, and then it's just like they all of a sudden they played Cleveland and Chicago and they just couldn't get a win to save their lives, It's one of those things to where I think the organization just went, all right, screw it. Let's just get them up here. Let's go. I'm sure there's more method to the madness than just that. But, at the same time, it was nice to see those guys there. I'm sure we're going to be seeing them up and down on the roster as we kind of go here. Your thoughts, though, does this give you any sort of hope that maybe if they are up here for long term, and maybe we'll see some other guys brought up as well, does that give you any sort of hope about this team? You're like, okay, this is finally what we've been waiting for, right? Like, the ball is slowly rolling in the right direction. Finally, we've been talking about these guys for so long. We're finally going to get to a point where maybe they're not winning a ton, but we can see flashes here and there of, okay, what this team potentially could be 2-3 years down the line.
Yeah, well, I would say so if, again, like I said, if they had better performances going out, that'd be a little more, and hopefully through the seaon they just get better and better. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm really hoping for to see. But, coming out, I was like, if this is our future, I'm very worried. But I'm going to be optimistic with it and say that they're just going to get better and better. Yeah. And I do like seeing them have that experience and be able to really get through. And play well.
I mean, honestly, you look at this team, right? This team is weird, right? Guys like Jacoby Jones have been playing well, but it's not necessarily sustainable. You got guys like Miguel who aren't playing well at all. You've got guys like Tyler Boyd who were phenomenal last year, right? And now are completely useless on the mound right now. He's been terrible. So it's a weird bag this year. I think they're really just trying to sort out what they have, I think, a little bit. And I think this is the perfect time because you only had a 60-game season where you really can just, it's almost like a elongated preseason for them, I think, in a lot of ways, right? Of course they're trying to win, but at this point, I think you're in evaluation mode. I mean, I think they're 10-15 on the year right now, something like that. They're not going to be. I don't anticipate them competing for a playoff spot, right?
No.
And you're a quarter of the way through. For me, I think they're honestly looking at this and saying, this is a team that is okay, what do we have, right? We've got all this stuff. Everyone's talking about we have a top 5 minor league system. But what does that mean, and is that really going to come to fruition? Are we really going to have a team for the future, or are we just, are we still farther back than we anticipated? Yeah, you know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised to see Torkelson up here and maybe at some point at the end of the year. You know what I mean? Just rake it, hopefully.
I hope so.
So there's a lot of things, I just wanted to touch on this just a little bit because when you look at this team and there's, they're not fun to watch. They're boring. They're not very good. You're seeing a lot of mistakes. It's just kind of all right, they're not hitting very well. But at the same time, if you're a Tigers fan, there's hope because every time you see Casey Mize go out there, you're like, okay, that's our new guy, and let's hope to God that turns out, better and better every time we see him. Let's jump right in now, Mike, to this wrestling roundup here that we want to talk about. A lot of stuff happened over the last couple of days. We had NXT 30. We had a title change on SmackDown. We've got the debut of the Thunderdome. That's going to be for SummerSlam as of this recording tonight. We'll talk about SummerSlam obviously next week. AEW had a special Saturday night show because of the NBA playoffs. Also, we're going to be talking NBA playoffs next week as well, so don't shoot me if I said that we're going to talk about it this week because nothing's really happened yet. But so Mike, let's start off with the big event. Let's start off with NXT 30. I watched it last night. We had a graduation party to go to for the Whaleman over here, so we didn't actually get to watch it live. I watched it when I came home. You watched it after you left as well. Give me your thoughts on the show, 30th anniversary. Just give me an overall grade for the show first, and then we'll go kind of into the matches here, what we liked, what we didn't like.
Okay. I thought it was good overall.
Yeah.
It was better than In Your House, but not like so much better. So now I had to go back and like I don't remember what I gave In Your House. So this is gonna
I'm sure it was like a D minus.
D minus,
like the hardest grader ever.
I'm gonna go C plus.
Yeah.
On this on NXT 30.
I'm kind of that's where I'm at. I'm at C plus B minus.
Yeah,
that's kind of where. That's kind of where I'm at. And I think the only reason why I kind of want to give it a B minus is for the Pat McAfee Adam Cole match only. That's pretty much the only reason why I want.
That's why I'm giving it a C plus.
Yeah, right. Yeah. From as we go through, so the results are also. Did you watch the pre-show? Do you know who won the? Do you know who even won the triple threat pre-show?
No, just keep talking.
You want to look this up for me? Okay, so we open up the show with Thatcher and Balor. Balor gets the win. I don't understand what they're doing with Finn. It's like, Finn, by the way, you're not going to win any meaningful match, but every takeover you're going to be on to random singles, and you're going to win that. I don't really get it. Thatcher looked good. His style is not really conducive to a lot of people's viewing habits as of now, right? They want to see high flying. They want to see action. Thatcher is the complete antithesis of that in every way, shape, and form.
Breezango won the
pre-match. Okay, cool. So they're the number one contenders for the tag titles. We saw Io Shirai retain the NXT Women's title over Dakota Kai. We kind of predicted that. We saw Damian Priest win the ladder match for the NXT North American Championship. Adam Cole goes over Pat McAfee, and what I am definitely going to say is the match of the night, and I don't think it's close. And then you had Keith Lee dropping the NXT Championship to Karrion Kross. You got a new NXT champion. So we got a new NXT North American champion, new NXT champion. Give me, your overall. First, let's talk about the major ones here. I want to talk about this ladder match first. Your thoughts on this, because I feel like this match was different than a lot of ladder matches that I've seen in the past, and I want to know your thoughts on it first before I kind of go into mine, because I left that match, I was like, that was weird almost. I don't know. I had a different feeling from it.
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
But I thought it was like the most like baseline like ladder match you can have.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't anything like particularly special. I don't think that happened, but I thought it was like a solid ladder match also. Yeah. But it was weird because I had the feeling Damian Priest was gonna leave, but I thought the match just went on 6 minutes too long.
Yeah,
because Priest was about to get it,
and then
Velveteen came in to knock him off, and then they went through the whole now I'm gonna go up and get it, and everyone went up again to go get it, and I was like, wait, this is still going on. I thought he just was gonna pull it down and win it right there. So I thought it just went on a little longer than I thought it was gonna be, but I thought it was a good ladder match.
Yeah, well, I thought it was standard, nothing crazy, right? The problem is I went in unexpectedly comparing it to the first time they did this, right?
Yeah.
Or the first time, and that match was great in my opinion. I really enjoyed that ladder match much better. You also had guys like Ricochet in there who can really fly and do that kind of stuff. But at the same time, the one thing that I kind of stood out for me was I will say this ladder match for me more than any other in a long time has felt like everybody did. It was almost like they didn't care about having the match. It was legitimately about, I need to get up there and grab the title, right? And I felt like they did a really nice job of doing the false finish where it honestly felt at one point or another that every single guy in the match had a legitimate gripe to be like, oh, he's got it. Oh my gosh, they set up a sequence where every single time it felt like, okay, Priest is gonna get it. Nope. Oh wait, Dream is up there. Oh, Dream's got it. And then Gargano with Cancelleria come out. Oh, Gargano's gonna win this. Oh, Bronson Reed's gonna grab a camera. It all felt like they had their individual moment. You see it every once in a while where it's oh, the guy gets close, but there were times where it's the guy had the hand on the championship, was about to grab it, and just didn't get it at the very last second. I thought they did a really nice job with that. But that's the thing that stuck out to me the most. I'm glad that Priest won it. I think he's a big star in the making, quite frankly. I don't know if his ceiling is necessarily NXT Championship or not, but I definitely think he is a high upper card guy for them. Let's talk about the NXT Women's Title match. This match for me was just there. I didn't see. Everyone, Triple H came on the media call after and was like, Dakota Kai was a star tonight. I go, I don't know how. It was just a match, in my opinion. I just felt like she was kind of there because they didn't have anybody else established, ready to go yet for EO to beat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. I don't have much more on that.
You're like,
I'll be honest. I didn't watch that one.
No, you didn't. Oh, okay. See, I watched it, but it was just like it was just there.
It was too late for me to watch that one.
I felt like it was just like they're just waiting for Rhea Ripley to get another shot. Is really kind of what I'm waiting for.
I'm waiting for that too.
All right, so let's talk about the two big dogs here. I do want to talk Adam Cole, Pat McAfee. It's my favorite match on this card. I was already going in thinking it was going to be, quite frankly, but I thought Pat McAfee delivered in spades. He was the performer of the night for me. I want to give a lot of credit to Adam Cole for getting him through that. There was a couple times I think the camera work could have been better because you could definitely tell that Cole was like, okay, like, do this, do that. You could definitely see that. However, on that same notion, I will say they got that match off pretty flawlessly. There wasn't a botched move. McAfee's out there doing drop kicks. He's doing backflips. He's jumping on the top rope, hitting superplexes. Cole hit the Panama Sunrise on him, and it went smoothly, and it wasn't like this jumbled mess of a thing. Like, everything that they did, I'm sure they did a run through 5-6 times, but it just went smooth. You know what I mean? And McAfee looked like a legitimate star in that ring. He got over. The match, I thought, was perfect in the way they executed it. I don't know how you felt about it, but I gave this specific match, I thought, considering it's not a wrestler in there with Cole, I'm gonna give it 5 stars all day long, just because of that. Because I thought, like, I haven't seen somebody in such a long time, outside of probably Rousey, come in and just like take to it that fast, and you're just like, damn, that was a legitimate match that you can hang your hand on.
Yeah, that's probably the best celebrity match.
Yeah, right? In a long time, right? I can't, I think Lawrence Taylor did a nice job at WrestleMania 11, but we're talking years ago now. Yeah. But, like, legitimately, like, he was in shape. They did a nice job where he got some offense in, right? He, the punt and everything, they told a nice story. They made Cole, there was when he hits the punt, everyone's like, oh my gosh, he's actually going to freaking win this match. And you had a little bit of that false finish here. Everything was succinct. It was crisp. You could tell that they went, okay, sequence 1 here, sequence 2 here, sequence 3 here. But considering that he's not a wrestler, he's doing backflips. He basically, what's crazy is, like, you can tell he just went, all right, I'm just going to flip off this top rope and hope to God people are down there, because if not, I'm going to die on that. You know what I mean? To kind of start the match off in the right way. They just did a really, really nice job, and I'm putting this over really hard right now because I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I was like, when he came up with the stomp and Cole hits him with the super kick, and he, like, had a reaction. He didn't just kind of, like, awkwardly crumble. Like, you could tell he's an athlete in there. And like I said, I really, really, really enjoyed this match. I thought it was phenomenal. It was worthy of a main event slot. And, I know it kind of went in the middle of the card a little bit, which I think made the women's match even harder to watch, because I was like, that was fun. I'm watching this at 12:30 at night. I'm like, that was phenomenal. And then I got to watch that match. I'm like, all right, well, I'll fall asleep halfway through. So I'm putting that match over pretty hard. Last match of the night, though, Keith Lee, Karrion Kross. Thoughts on it? We kind of knew Kross was probably going to get the win. He separated his shoulder. Did you see when he actually did it? He did it on that Saito the first time, and you see all of a sudden his shoulders look like that. All of a sudden, just go back and watch it. It's pretty crazy. Nice. If you're a fan, watch it. You'll notice, because all of a sudden you see Kross's collarbone stick out like this now. All of a sudden, so hopefully he's not legit out for a long time, and he can hold the title. Because if not, I think that puts a major kink in all the plans, pretty much. Thoughts on Kross getting the win? Thoughts on the match itself? Because I think Keith Lee did a really nice job here getting Kross over.
Oh yeah, no, I thought it was perfectly fine for what it was. And Kross did look super good in this match.
Yeah, I'm glad it was competitive.
Yeah,
Nick Cross looked vulnerable at times.
Yeah, like he did make him look vulnerable, but it was also like Karrion was like, but I'm also too much of a beast to ever really lay down ever. Mm-hmm. So I bought into it pretty hard, and I'm now pretty hard on the Cross train.
Yeah, right. And being
an established star here.
Yes, right, exactly. And I think they did that in spades. I think for as much crap as I give Keith Lee, where I don't really truly find him super captivating in a story perspective, I think his matches are fine. But as far as like getting the build in this match, I thought he did a tremendous job of really selling and getting over the fact that every time Cross hit him, it was a big deal. They worked the arm. It made it like Keith Lee look like he was really in pain. Like there was a lot of good things about this match. It was slower, which you kind of expected, right? I don't think anyone's going to expect Cross to go out there and have a barn burner kind of match, right? Where it's just constant, flow. It was heavy hitting. It was heavy. I think it went a little bit long, in my opinion. I feel like he could have cut out maybe a little bit of it. The fact that he finished, though, with a separated shoulder is pretty damn badass, in my opinion. Especially because he had to lift him off the second rope and land on the shoulder. I was like, dude, that's a rough go. And then he lifts the title, and you can tell he's like, I'm like, whoo, that's a rough go. Yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, I thought this was a solid show overall.
Yeah.
I feel like the show would have been a little bit better received if it was in front of a full crowd. I think the NXT takeovers are really the ones that are affected the most by the no crowd right now. Is the fact that they're just kind of like they're there. You know what I mean? You don't get the big reaction and that big fight feel. But I like the way they're going. I'm kind of interested to see, where they go with Cross now. Like I said, I hope he's healthy, but it's something to watch for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, let's flip onto the other channel here, and let's go to AEW. We got the Saturday Night Special thing. Two big notes coming out of this, right? FTR gets a new manager in Tully Blanchard. They're teasing this new faction. You got Hangman Page kind of hanging around there. Maybe it's Shawn Spears is the other guy in this Four Horsemen-esque type of thing. Thoughts on Tully getting the bid to manage FTR and a possible Four Horsemen thing coming?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. I do think a lot of them are gonna be holding titles. Mm-hmm. FTR is gonna be definitely the tag champs coming out all out probably.
Yep.
And I think Hangman will probably sooner rather than later get like the TNT title for a little stint.
Yep.
And then eventually we'll get the world title probably at next year's All Out, I'm assuming. Yeah. So I think they're going to build a nice little faction and actually a competitive faction that everyone has to be like watching out for.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited. And I think it'll be cool because I think I always thought that Cody having the TNT title, like Cody's very good at storytelling, and I think that he doesn't need the title to tell the story.
Right.
Or I think other guys, I think it would benefit on the card if it was like if Hangman gets it, it's Hangman versus Kenny for the TNT title, and Cody was doing his own thing with somebody else. I think I would be interested in both.
Doing more storytelling, less about the championship.
Yeah, because that's what Cody's really good at, is the story aspect. So I'm really hoping that it kind of flows over there, and then maybe Kenny has a nice little rivalry there, or goes for the world title. I think there's a lot of stuff you can do.
The only thing with that is I think they're going to be heels going out. So if MJF presumably takes the title from Moxley, right? So that's only going to be the thing. I'm guessing what's going to wind up happening is that I think you're right on the money where Hangman probably gets the TNT championship. Spears, if he is the fourth guy, I don't anticipate Cody flipping. So I don't know if Cody's going to be in this faction or not. I'm assuming he's not. But if he's not, and Spears is the other guy because he's already managed by Tully Blanchard, Hangman holding the TNT championship, FTR's got the tag title, Spears is just the guy to take the pinfall. I think it still works out pretty well. Yeah. And then I think what will wind up happening is they're going to start putting on such great matches, which what always happens is when heels do really well in the ring, they become faces because of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I could see something like that happening where they're bad guys for 6, 7, 8 months, and then all of a sudden you seal the turn, and that's when Hangman really starts to get the momentum behind him, and we see him versus MJF, who's held the title for a year, and we're going to see two truly homegrown AEW talent guys going at it for the big title, and I think that's where you're going to see, okay, now we're really off and running for sure. Thoughts on Brody Lee basically coming in and just dominating Cody in 3 minutes and winning the TNT championship? I think I said that Rowan was going to be debuting. That was all the reports that I read. Clearly they made me look like an idiot. But regardless, Brody gets the win. Thoughts on him becoming the second ever TNT champion?
Yeah, I think it really helps out everyone there.
Yeah, the Dark Order.
The Dark Order in general. I think it's just like a perfect. I think you could have some mixed tag matches with Cody and Brandy and Brody Lee, and there's like Anna Jay. I think is in that too, who choked her out and stuff. So I think you could have there's a lot of the Elite versus the Dark Order stuff that you can eventually start running into now, faction versus faction kind of deal.
Yep.
And I think Brody Lee's a good like heel TNT champion because I think he'll just come out. He has his groupies to help him retain it all the time, and then there's going to be that face that's going to come in and
Yeah, I think this was needed, right? I think
it was 100% needed
to reestablish Brody as a top guy. He's basically the entire Dark Order has been glorified jobbers as of this point, really, because they don't really ever win any match that's meaningful. So now the fact that they're here, Brody getting the TNT title, I think that Grayson and Evil Uno are definitely in that tag title mix as well. They're so deep at the tag team division, it's crazy. But the fact that he gets the win in such convincing fashion, I think is a great job by Cody and AEW to kind of realize that, hey, we've got a lot of time and creative process and TV time and people invested in this product, right? Where it's like we really need to give them something to hang their hat on and make them somewhat credible. I'm hoping that we continue to see, if it's not weekly, a bi-weekly title defense of the championship, because I know Cody was like, this is an open challenge thing. Now that Brody's the champion, I don't know if we'll see that as much, but I do hope that we do continue to see that television championship, because that's really what it is a television championship, be defended on a pretty regular basis on TV, because if not, it kind of defeats the purpose of it, especially because we don't see Moxley on TV a ton. Thoughts on what they were able to do, considering it was Saturday night, they didn't have a ton of time, they kind of just went get in, get out, but I think this is one of the more impactful Dynamite episodes in a while, because I feel like we finally are starting to see things happen, things are changing, we're starting to get some momentum on some storylines going into All Out.
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I think this is the only problem having quarterly pay-per-views. There's a lot of like middle stuff.
And then let's go.
Yeah, so now we're getting into, now let's go and build for this show for the next like 2 weeks or whatever until the show happens. Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was really good. I think it was like a nice like precursor to TakeOver. If you do watch both, if you're just NXT or you're just AEW, then obviously it doesn't affect you. But if you watch both, it's like, okay, 6 to 8 is a nice little, like, you got a couple tag matches, you had a title change. Okay, now let's get into TakeOver. It's like the main event course meal kind of thing. Exactly. So I think it really worked out well. And it didn't compete against anything, so...
Yeah, it had its own thing. It was nice and succinct. They got a lot of stuff done. I was really happy with it. Last thing I want to ask you real quick before we go off air today, a little bit shorter of an episode today, guys, is going to be, what are your thoughts on the Thunderdome? Vince coming in and going, this is the Thunderdome, and whatever like that. And you see all the people. SummerSlam's tonight, obviously, or yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this. Thoughts on how it looks, the presentation? Are you a fan? Are you not a fan?
Yeah. Well, I wish you could like hear the people in the Thunderdome. Like I wish you would talk and you could hear it. Yeah. Because I think that's like, because I don't ever like watch people's reactions.
I want to see the fans. No, it's not. I want the noise.
I want the noise, so I know how to feel in a match or whatever. But I'm just like watching people, and most of them are just like straight faced, like staring at their computer screen, like straight at it, and they're not really like animating or anything, so it's not. It's okay, I guess. I'd rather just go back to what it was. Yeah. But I do like that they're at the Amway Center, right? It's like a nice bigger like.
Yeah, they're gonna have some pyro. They're gonna have some stuff. I think they're gonna wind up pumping in some sort of crowd noise. I feel like. I think they're gonna try and do some stuff here. Real quick, just thoughts on Jeff Hardy winning the IC title from AJ, just kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah,
you like it? You like it?
Yeah, sure.
You're like, whatever.
You have some nice
whatever we can get the Universal title off Braun Strowman, that's all we really care about.
That's the goal.
All right.
Take it, Bray. Yeah. Take it.
That's going to be it for this week's show. I don't know what we got going on next week just yet. We'll have some updates for you as we go along through the week. But that's going to be it for this week's show. The Road to 100 is officially underway here. Just a couple more weeks left, guys, and we will be there. That's going to be it for this week. For the Missing Well Man, he's the Merc Zone. I'm the Mouth of Michigan, and we will see you guys, as always, next time.